Okay, to officially welcome us to this knowledge-rich session, may I invite the President of the American Society of Safety Professional to Nigerian chapter to deliver the warm welcome address. So let's warmly welcome him. So let's welcome him with a resounding round of applause. Sir, are you there, sir?
Ahmad?
Yes, sir. Engineer Nawogo, please go ahead, sir.
I thought you. Okay. Good evening,
Hello,
everyone.
everyone.
And
Yeah, before, hold on, the presenter. Thank you. I'm standing in for the president, so let me
okay,
officially,
good.
let me officially welcome everyone. It's a pleasure to have you all here. Thank you for choosing to be part of this program for today, and special thanks to our presenter who had volunteered to be able to share knowledge with us today concerning beyond compliance. We wish everyone a safe hearing and hope that this section will be impactful. I think before we finish, the president will be able to join us. I appreciate you. My name is Mrs. Mercy Refo, the regional director for Area 9 ESSP. Thank you. So over to you, presenter. I appreciate you.
Okay, thank you very much, Ma. Thank you, Ma, for standing in for the president. So it is now my pleasure to introduce our distinguished speaker. Please allow me to briefly read his impressive profile. Our speaker for today is Rume Daniels. Rume Daniels is a trained geologist, leadership development expert, and award-winning training consultant with 2 decades of experience in human capital development. He is the team lead at Impact Global Resources and serves as an executive director at the Center for Values in Leadership, CVL. With a distinguished career spanning multiple industries, Rume has made significant contributions to organizations such as OENL, Hyperthread, Cayman Construction Limited, and AIFL. As the team lead at Impact Global Consulting, he has been instrumental in delivering HR solutions and spearheading the Enterprise Reengineering and Growth Program, ERGP, transforming business across sectors, including banking, oil and gas, telecommunications, manufacturing, engineering, agriculture, healthcare, non-profit, freight, and education. A recognized thought leader in leadership and organization development, Women is a faculty member of the Leadership School and an active member of the Human Capital Development Policy Commission of the Nigerian Economic Summit Group, NESG. He has served on the board of multiple startups and continues to provide strategic advisory support to emerging and established enterprise. Strategic advisory support to emerging and established enterprise. Beyond corporate leadership, Rume is deeply committed to capacity building and societal transformation. He leads the Lifting Place and the I Lead movement, mentoring young professionals and emerging leaders. He is also the convener of the annual CEO Summit and Discovery Summit on campus, initiative dedicated to equipping leaders with the knowledge and skill to drive sustainable impact. Driven by a passion to cultivate visionary leadership and foster positive societal change, Daniel remains at the forefront of shaping the future of leadership and enterprise across Africa. Wow. Please, if our hands are not busy, please join me as I welcome our distinguished speaker for today, Mr. Daniels. Please, a round of applause as we welcome him.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Good evening, Mr. Ahmed. Thank you for that
Good evening, sir.
introduction. And good evening to the president, the leadership, the executive of the American Society of Safety Professionals, the Nigerian chapter. It's such an honor to be on this call tonight for the ninth knowledge sharing session. I want to also appreciate Mr. Ben, the committee, the head who has graciously been interfacing with preparing for this. So let's just go into the session because I was told we're starting by 5, and so we had 45 minutes thereabouts, and so it means we still have some time to catch up. Please permit me to feel very free to share thoughts just as I have laid them out in an informative manner. Hopefully, this will be quite an engaging session tonight. And I want the discussions to go in 2 different dimensions. Please just a minute. All right, so HSC is such an impressive and amazing wide field. Painfully, so many, thank you, Mr. Ahmed, so many people are not so conscious of the importance, the role that we play, right, in shaping organizations with our professional decisions and roles, as well, the various inputs we make on a daily basis, trying to enforce compliance of major regulations and standards that should be adhered by organizations. During the last conference, we had a breakout session. In one of those breakout sessions, I was privileged to lead about, shaping culture as it is, as HSC professionals and leaders.
Progress.
Hello, please, can you confirm that you can still hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Thank you. I switched devices, so I wanted to be sure. Thank you.
Okay, but we can't see your slide yet.
Okay, so permit me, I won't be sharing a slide. I'm going to be sharing,
Okay.
yes, I won't be sharing a slide. And please just flow with me. It's going to be quite engaging in this
Okay.
sense. Okay.
Thank you.
So back to what I was saying that during the breakout session, we were sharing about how, as HSC professionals, we can shape the culture of organizations to, be more safety conscious. And I remember that quite a number of the very experienced, and by experience, people who have done as much as 25 years in our profession were sharing their various experiences as it concerns how difficult it is to literally try to shape the culture of an organization under the leadership that has no real desire to be safety conscious. So that's one of the things that has, come into the discussion tonight, and hopefully we can make headway in that. Another thought that came up is, how can I shape culture when I don't have the positional authority, all right, the institutional authority to initiate such a change or initiatives that will influence and shape the culture of our organization? That was also something that came into bear back then as well. So as it is, right, we have situations where some persons have the understanding of what should be done, have the drive and the passion to do it, but are helpless when it comes to the fact that they don't have the, the authority, right? The positional authority to, so from someone who is leading down up, all right, as against leading upward, leading up down in that sense, influencing subordinates and trying to shape culture from the top. Some of the professionals have, had the concerns of saying, look, it's not easy to do this when I'm leading, from the bottom up approach. And so tonight also, that is also something we would love to quickly talk about. And the last thing is, speaking of transformational leadership, all right, leaders have always been people who have the capacity to not just inspire influence, but also have the capacity to be strategically positioned. All right. So speaking about how we become so safety driven as a people, as a culture, we want to understand that for organizations, for our nation, for our world, where is our career also heading? And so that's a third dimension to the discussion that I quickly would love us to look into. So for starters, please, speaking of safety compliance in our HSE field, right? We know very, very well that there are standards of compliance that literally we already practice on a very, very everyday basis, from being just conscious of what it takes to ensure that people have their PPE on, right? On a daily basis, and we leading by example in that sense as well. Okay, very, very quickly. So those compliance in that area is something we do to global HSE regulatory standards that will ensure, all right, from operational health and safety management systems, how ISO to environmental management systems to, other guidelines from OSHA standards and all of that. And we have also key compliance areas in our HSE practice that has to do with being able to identify our hazards or risk assessments. And this is key in our practice, all right, every single day. Incident reporting and investigating. This is very key in our practice every day, where we're not newbies when it comes to that. Even the most recently onboarded HSE professional understands the value of incident reporting and investigation as a key component of our daily work, all right, and the procedures that is required to take, all right. We've talked about our PPE, and then of course, emergency response and evacuation plans. This we get to do as well. Training and compliance management, all right? Very, very important. Occupational health surveillance as well, all right? And then we come to waste management and environment control. So they are very, very important issues that we get to deal with on a daily basis on the line of work, all right, when it comes to compliance, okay? organizational HSC documentation requirements. These are things that we look into in terms of HSC policy, risk assessment reports, job safety analysis, and the likes. All right. And then we look right now into emerging trends as well when it comes to HSC compliance as it relates to digital HSC systems, behavior-based safety, AI-powered safety and analysis, and the like. So when it comes to sustainability, we also have the ESG alignment, and it is still within our governance framework to literally integrate HSC into sustainability. And so this is a very major part of what we do every day. So when we speak of getting to go beyond compliance, we're actually saying we should step out from these daily routines to more proactive reasonings and thinkings of how we literally shape the HSC practice into our not just our work today, but our work tomorrow. All right. So to be very factual, right? Some of us on this call will agree with me that an HSC manual, all right, is an operational tool more than just being a strategic tool. It's a strategic tool when it becomes something that is embedded into the management. It's a strategic tool when it becomes something that literally shapes the way an organization does its things, especially when it aligns with the overview, the corporate objective of the organization, and all that. So back to the conversation, please, about how some of the professionals during our, last professional conference, PDC conference, had said, and I don't want to call organizations because it was really sad to even hear that some of the very well-respected organizations we hear were struggling to allow the HSC professionals to give expression to, the safety compliances that were meant to happen. And the question was, how? How do you even begin to get organization whose management, whose direct CEO, for instance, is not HSC compliant? All right. And for start, well, to be fair to some other organizations present, some of them said, before you can even be a CEO in the organization, all right, you'd have spent at least 1 year in the HSC department to understudy, and to get the value of HSC embedded into your core, even if you are a core engineer in that sense. So that's for instance, you realize it's a proactive organization that has the capacity to prepare its future leaders in the domains of HSC, such that when they become leaders tomorrow, positional leaders tomorrow, right from the top, they understand the role that HSC plays in the value chain of the organization, all right? And they see it as part of the entire, mainstream of operations, and not see HSC as a headache. And not see HSC as slowing down the ability to make profits or to deliver on certain targets and goals for the day. In my line of work, I've been in organizations where the QC, HSC people suffer a great deal of, a lot of castigation, already products will go into the market, they come back complaining, there's a whole lot of trade war going on, a lot of, bad PR going on because you didn't allow, QC to do its work, you didn't allow the safety measures and the operational procedures to take place. In fact, there's a particular organization, I don't even want to call the name, we practically consume their product in the FMCG group every single day. And they had a particular MDCO that fit into the model of the kind of concerns that were raised during the conference. This MDCO felt like every time the HSC had to pause production on the lines, for instance, that they were going against their targets, their sales target for the day. Even the routine cleanup that needed to be done, he felt there was no need for it until problems began to happen. All right, so this is where the understanding of the need to be transformational leaders, all right, innovative leaders, leaders without titles need to come in, all right? So we talk about a transformational leader in this sense as one who is willing to influence decisions, as one who is willing to influence outcomes, as one who is willing to shape, and inspire, shape the culture of organization, inspire people to actually go in a direction that they would have not even gone without actual leadership. And let's be very factual. All right. The easiest form of leadership is from the top down. It is more difficult for peer-to-peer leadership, let alone from the bottom to lead or influence bosses or superiors. However, it is not impossible. I like to draw your attention to the fact that a whole book was written about that. And for those who are on this call listening, all right, it would be nice if you are especially interested in the subject of influence and leadership, to learn not just how to lead downward, like we mentioned, that's the easiest form of leadership, but there's self-leadership, there's leadership to subordinates, there's leadership to peers, or peer-to-peer leadership, and there's leadership to superiors or bosses. In this context now, all right, if you're on this call and you have, all right, top-down approach kind of influence, this might be the easiest conversation we'll be having, because you have the capacity and the power, the positional authority to effect certain safety compliances, without necessarily having any resistance. However, we're saying to these HSC professionals on this call tonight, in our cases to this evening, that look, it's important not just only to ensure that we, show the company what it is like to adhere to compliance standards and the importance or the why and the benefits of doing so. That comes with, as much enlightenment as possible through whatever strategies that some of us have used on our, on our HSC professional journey to influence these safety regulations and standards. We really celebrate you for that. However, there is a call on this call today to ask us to go beyond just what we're currently doing, to even stretching. So it's actually a stretch to say, look, Rumi, I found it very difficult. I don't even have the influence. You're asking me to step up and influence despite the fact that I don't have the capacity or in terms of the operational authority to do so. Now you're also asking me to step beyond what I am actually meant to do as an HSC professional, to go beyond that which I'm doing, to dream of domains that the possibilities are bound only in the realms of ideas at the moment. The possibilities are bound only in the realms of future thinking and implementation. Yes, that's exactly what we're talking about. And so it's like saying a striker who has struggled to score 5 goals during the season, you are telling him, charging him up that for the coming season, please, we expect 30 goals from you. That's a call. That's a leap. That's more or less like a demand, placing a demand and asking for competence and capacity to be built, for results that have not even yet been seen. When you put it in that way, yes, that is what this is about. So for the first 2 issues that were raised, before we move to the last one, I just want to quickly talk about that and we can begin to wrap this up. Understanding or giving us a reminder in terms of what leadership means is very important here. Leadership is basically the ability to inspire and to influence. All right? So, like Dr. John Maxwell would say, leadership is influence. All right? Leadership is influence. In fact, in his book, he writes that in his 21 laws of leadership, irrefutable laws of leadership, he writes in law number 1, he says everything rises and falls on leadership. All right? And someone will say, yes, Ruma, you see now, that is actually the key. I am not the positional leader. And if everything is meant to rise and fall on leadership, then how are you expecting me to be a transformational leader that will influence, safety, a safety culture beyond just the compliance of everyday work life? That itself is a crucial, is a cogent question. However, if we go beyond the fact that leadership is not just about our position, in fact, we understand that the lowest level of leadership is leadership by position. So if you go by other levels of leadership, which there are four more domains of leadership, or rather levels of leadership, all right, you realize that you don't even need a position to influence change and culture. My little research before tonight, I have come into certain realities of people who had no titles that literally went on to innovate and influence their organizations by the sheer, findings or the sheer will they had, the sheer force of their innovation. And not by force, not by, coercion, not by any sort of, other manipulative tendencies. People have been able to learn how to bring their bosses, their leaders, and their peers into their ideas. That's why it was written, a whole book was written on the power of persuasion, the ability to bring people into your ideas and thoughts without necessarily manipulating them to do it. That's what it takes to inspire. That's what it takes to influence. And everybody can influence. Everybody was designed for it. We're not born with this naturally, all right? There are some cholerics or some born leaders who are born with those traits. However, they still even get to build it. So when we describe leadership as the ability to inspire and to influence, that means that ability can be learned, it can be acquired over time, it can be developed with time, it can be developed by, steady observation, steady, curiosity of what it takes to influence people and what it takes to actually add value to organizations or to human beings without, like we said, without necessarily coercing them into it. Persuasion is not manipulation. Persuasion is influence. It's influenced by knowledge. It's influenced by results. It's influenced by training. It's influenced by care and concern and consistent, adding of value. All right. So, like we say that there are 4 different levels of leadership. We say number 1 is leadership by position, which is the lowest level of knowledge, or the lowest level of leadership, rather. That's leadership by position. And at that level 1, a professional or a leader, in this context now, in this reality, an HSC professional, the influence of the HSC professional at this level is tied to his office, his title, his title, his office. And so when you take the man or the woman out of that office, of that title, when they don't have the same influence that they usually will have in that title, you will say literally that their influence was tied to their office and was tied to their title. All right. So that's leadership by position. All right. However, there's a second level, and I love this level. Every leader any human being can play at that level. It's called leadership by permission. All right. Leadership by permission. So whether you're new in a department, you've been there for years, or you're just learning to try to relate and work with people, you can learn this. At this level, a leader's influence is tied to their ability to show care and concern to the people around them. I'll say that again. At this level, a leader's influence, all right, is tied to their ability to show care and concern. All right, it's basically genuine care, genuine concern. That's why it's possible for you to have a head of department who has the title, yet you have another leader who people listen to but does not have the title. I'm telling you this, in your profession, in your professional journey, if you look back and sincerely try to observe your journey, you realize that there have been situations, and maybe it even happened to you, where you had the office, you had the title, yet there was somebody else who people literally will listen more to. They didn't have a title, but they had a way with people. They had a way with people, and that's what we call leadership by permission, where people submit their following to you. They submit willingly to your influence and to your ideas and thoughts. All right. It's the kind of person who's away from work, for instance, and maybe you had left when you weren't feeling fine, but on your off season, a leader by permission is checking up on you, checking up on your family, asking genuinely to know how you're doing, praying for you, sending you material, sending you updates from work. All of a sudden, you realize that you naturally detour to them. There are a lot of people trying to shape the culture of organizations, trying to bring their ideas and their thoughts, trying to even just ensure that people, live up to the standards of the HSC practice. And you realize that you are just frustrated. You realize that you're just angry because people don't seem to be getting the message. All right? People don't even value the HSC department in many organizations. And we've heard people say things like, our organization does not have an HSC-friendly leader, an HSC-friendly policy. We just say we are HSC compliant, but we are really not practicing HSC. And so you're asking, is there any need for me as a professional to shape anything? Because out of frustration, you realize that I can't really influence anything. All right? One of the things you realize here, all right, is that you have such a professional. He hasn't learned how to work with people well. All right? She hasn't really learned to relate with people. She hasn't really learned to relate with professionals properly. All right? And then you're trying to ask for for people to comply. People won't comply. People won't even comply to the basics. All right, they will do so under coercion because there's always. So if you had, for instance, a management team that was ensuring that people are punished for lack of compliance, people will respond in fear and out of obligation. But when we talk about shaping culture, having a safety-driven culture, we're talking about people literally living to the standards of safety, of HSC, without being compelled, without being, they're not forced to do it. They do it out of the fact that it has become a lifestyle, because that's what culture is about. Culture is the way of life of a people. Culture is the way of life of an organization. And like, the late Peter Drucker used to say, he said, no matter how good your strategy is, culture will eat that strategy up for breakfast any day. Dr. Maxwell will say, culture will eat your vision for lunch. All right? So culture will eat strategy for breakfast, culture will eat vision for lunch. All right? Whether it is the vision or it's the strategy. That's how powerful it is. I'm saying that a lack of good culture will literally destroy every plan, every written document out there we have that has been positioned for proper compliance, for global HSC practices. You realize that people are struggling if we don't have a culture, a good culture. So creating that culture, that environment, that ensures that people don't pretend to be culture sensitive, but actually live it as a lifestyle, as a proper professional way of life. All right? We see that takes time to shape. So whether you have 10 years left on your professional journey in your company, or you're out of there in one year, or you're just starting out and you have some 30 years to go, all right, this is an invitation to call on you as a safety professional, call on all of us to literally develop the capacity for leadership. In other words, develop the capacity to influence, develop the capacity to relate, develop the capacity to inspire, develop the capacity for persuasion, develop the capacity for growing and continuous, impact on lives. Basically, this is what that means. And this is what a transformational leader is about. It's not one who will, cower at the various challenges you're facing professionally. Thank God I have an MD/CEO that is not compliant. Thank God I have, a GM that is very, very outspoken against, quality and quality control and safety and all of that. Thank God. Thank God. Roman, what are you saying? I'm saying thank God. I think this is what I'm saying. I'm saying that anybody on this call under the sound of my voice who has the capacity and willingness, the tenacity, what we now know as grit, all right? A lot of business schools around the world is teaching grit now, grit. Since Angela Duckworth wrote the book on grit, a lot of people are beginning to talk about it. Simple put, resilience, all right? Capacity to bounce back, to be able to deliver the best results under the worst possible conditions, all right, of on collaborative management or colleagues. Yet I'm resolute. All right. That's why I say congratulations, because I realized that every professional that I know, irrespective of the industry, that has been willing to embrace the challenge of the leadership, challenges in terms of a lack of collaboration, like Ole mentioned, those who have been able to scale through that have become the best at their field. And then because, like we say, if you can succeed in Nigeria, you can succeed anywhere. So if you are currently in a space where you're finding it the most difficult, with all the scenarios we've painted, with all the possible, outlooks as it is, that look, I can't deliver the best result because there's no collaboration, there's no buy-in from management. I have a zero sensitivity to safety from the leadership, and the body language is showing it. That it's just a word of mouth, but there's no practical expression to the safety of both staff and the very operations that we actually deal with every day. If you are within that space, thank God for your life. And we're saying that in all of that, we want you to try. All right? SSP is asking you to try. SSP is asking you to be innovative enough, all right, to stay on that journey. Because I've seen people tell me, Rume, I'm going to resign. Not just HSC professionals, generally people who have very difficult bosses tell me every day, including yesterday, that I was still dealing with a case like this from somebody in Benin who says, I'm going to resign. I said, no, don't resign. Don't resign. This is what you should do. All right? This is what you should do. I will love the opportunity to share a real life story of a lady with, again, I don't want to call organizations, but please permit you to just talk about her. All right. Madam Onome is her name, for instance. She is currently the head of safety, the head of quality control. She's a QC manager of the largest plant within her organization, the Keja plant of our organization. And some 3 years ago, I drive into their plants just to have a meeting with TEP, and then comes into the car park, sits down in the car, and broke down, literally in tears. You said, Mr. Ruma, you said don't resign yet. However, this matter is becoming more and more stressful for me. All right. In 18 years of working in this organization, I've never had BP issues until now. All right. A GM had come into the company from another company, a related company, who was already instigating the sack of many potential branch managers, of departmental managers, and bringing people from his own company. Literally, as we speak today, this day, all right, she's the only standing homegrown manager in that brand, in that plant. Every other one was sacked from within and she faced so much. She was almost gone. All right. I don't want to go into all of the details, but I remember telling her, I said, look, a day is coming when you will feel as though this boss that you don't like now should be back. It looked like a, just a statement. And then some months later, after she stayed back, the GM was transferred to the Kaduna plant. And then before she became the substantial manager, they brought in a manager from one of their branches to head quality control. And, he was a far cry from the two bosses she had, her boss and at the department level and the overall GM. This guy, who was her immediate substantial departmental head right now, was a laissez-faire kind of person, anything goes kind of person. You don't submit reports when due. He will not query you. He literally, was just carefree. All right, people will give excuses, flimsy excuses. The one who had been there before, if you tell him you had a headache, he will tell you headache kill you there. All right, just deliver the reports. That's all I want. I want result. I don't want excuse. And people felt it was too hard. But this new one was so carefree. He took every excuse. He allowed you be. He thought he was being nice, or basically. until things began to go wrong in the department. And then one day she said to me, she said, remember when you told me that I wish my old bosses were around? She said, no, I'm in that place now. I said, what's happening? She said, this new boss is frustrating our departments. There's so many failures right now, the worst kind of failures, and the international body is flagging them, all right, because they have very mysterious shopping that go to different parts of the city of Lagos or anywhere in Nigeria to go shop for the product, and they were having product failures, consistent product failures per se. And she said, I wish I had my old boss back. I said, why? Now, this is the way she put it. She said, the old wicked boss in quotes brought the best out of us because we never made a mistake. But this one, every day we're making mistakes because it's too nice. So if I'm going to choose between a nice boss and a wicked boss, I'd rather stay under the wicked one because really fire is the one that refines you. I said, well, that's what I've been trying to say all along. Let me bring that back to our discussion because some people have often said to me that we can't bring out our best and push out our ideas because there's resistance from the top. All right, there's resistance from the top. Like I said, it is true. However, if you succeed, if you had 10 initiatives, for instance, and under a non-cooperative management environment, you are able to bring 2, 3 out, you are a great success. You're not a failure. Even if you brought only one out, you are a great failure. I mean, you're a great success, rather. You're not a failure. And so what I'm trying to say is we don't have control over the management. We're not going to change management. SSP cannot sack a CEO that is not complying or a GMD that is not complying. SSP has no power over that. You have no power over that. However, what you have the capacity to do is to handle yourself despite all of that challenge. And we're saying this is what transformational leaders do. They shape the culture of their organizations, and we're asking you to do that for the, for the world of safety, for the profession of safety. All right, be the safety champion in the middle or in the midst of and please, if you are in an environment where you don't have a problem with your bosses taking initiatives, that's a beautiful thing. However, what I'm describing or what I'm talking about is a real challenge. Believe me when I say this. There are people on this call who understand what I'm talking about, that it is very difficult to shape culture when you have a non-cooperative management team or set of cares who are just discouraging you. However, even though that is true, we're saying that your professional courtesy demands that you stand until it works. Your professional life demands that your story is incomplete in that organization until you have seen the reality of the compliance that you're trying to implement in that environment. All right, and that is the reality. That is the truth. So I put quite a number of things vis-a-vis this discussion so far together. Taking into cognizance of the fact that we are trying to shape the culture of the organization from the outside. When I say from the outside of management is what I meant. Because the reality, shaping of culture, it should be right from the top. It's easier from the top, but we're saying that, look, if you're the HRC professional, even where, number one, you don't have the positional authority. Number two, you don't have in terms of compliance. Now, you don't have the collaborate by side are already humongous challenges to deal with, but we say we sell off all of that challenge. That is what leadership is about. Leadership is, you're not a true professional. No one is permitted to say they are leading. We're hired, we're paid salaries, we're paid our wages every month because of the input we bring, because of the value we bring to the system. All right. So by all means, I think I'm going to say that what it takes will be, like I mentioned earlier, develop the competence for leadership, develop it, all right, develop it. So I mentioned earlier that there's a book that Dr. Miles Monroe wrote with regards to people who are having issues leading upward. All right. I've often led in my life journey so far in my professional work. Leadership has always been a subject I wanted to pretty much understand fully. And I've seen, like I mentioned, that it's easy to please, can you confirm, Mr. Ahmed, that you can still hear me, please?
Yes, we can hear you now. Although your voice was moving, but now it's better now.
So, thank you for the feedback, Mr. Ahmed. So, like I said earlier, Dr. Maxwell wrote a book that is very helpful. I want you to please take note of it. If you have a writing material, just write The 360-Degree Leader, all right? Just write it down. It's written by John C. Maxwell, all right? The 360-Degree Leader. It's a 360-degree leader. Yeah, it's a beautiful, beautiful piece. If you could get copies, soft copies, and you can share with the entire professional. Yeah, thank you for that, Mr. Musa. The 360-degree. No, the degree is not written in words. It's actually the degree. Mr. Ahmed, I'm hearing some feedback, please. So please, it's 360-degree with not in words. So you could get that material. Is there somebody wanting to say something, please?
Just go on, sir. I think somebody unmuted, but I'm trying to.
All right. All right. So, all right. So it's important that we have that so right there. So let me talk about the work as a professional. Mr. Erasmus Tamuno, it would be nice to up the future of our profession and where we're heading. I just want to end with that, and then I'll call it a day. Just a few minutes. Let me land this thought. Right, we are in a very, 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 very. I call. We're in very dangerous times. We're living in very dangerous times. All right, in terms of our professional work. All right, and I'm at this point, I've moved beyond trying to shape the culture of organization to actually shape the survival of the, HSC professional. That's what I'm talking about right now. And what do I mean by this? I know that many of us are already utilizing AI tools. As a matter of fact, I know that the ASSP is already in that place, all right, based on what I saw at the conference, where we already begin to think about implementing, safety compliance, leveraging on technology in our world today, all right? Literally. And we have all manner of expressions of that right now, all right? From softwares to automated tools to AI-driven tools, a whole lot. However, all right, when 5G becomes mainstream in our country, we realize we'll move full gear into what we are currently living in now as the fourth industrial revolution, which officially timeline dates to 1st January 2021. We're already in its fifth year. And with regards to telecoms infrastructure in our country, I'm sure that would have been able to move a little faster. 5G is a strong enabler of the fourth industrial revolution. When that arises, I'm afraid that HSC, amongst with every major profession in the world, will experience a hit like never before. And those are the dangerous times I spoke about. What transformational leaders do, however, is they are able to reinvent themselves to allow for sustainable influence. all right, to us, on a career. And so we're speaking to professionals right now who are in the HSC space. This HSC space, like every other industry, will experience a serious heat. The question I'm asking tonight, as we, begin to evolve and invent, all right, reposition for career relevance in this fast-changing AI, AGI-driven world. That is a million-dollar question that no one on this call or who will listen to this conversation should live in denial of. Painfully, there are many people who are still living in denial that, AI will do nothing, AI do this or do nothing. And painfully, I'm afraid that they're not being sincere with themselves. In the Holy Book, it's said, I think it's King Solomon who wrote that in the Holy Book, when he says that, a wise man will foresee danger and prepare against it. Then he says that the simpleton, on the other hand, sees danger and walks right into it without even blinking. I'm paraphrasing. All right. So he says a wise man foresees what is coming in an advantage point such that whatever is coming would not fizzle out or fizzle out our careers, basically. Now, let me put this. I have these pictures, but I'm not projecting. So let me just say, there are two pictures that I would love to have showed right about now. There's a picture of, New York in 1900 at a particular road that was full of horse-driven caravans. It was a beautiful sight to behold. Tens and tens of horses were on the road, just riding, just as if they were cars riding comfortably, and people were in their carriages driven by those horses. And very later, there was another picture taken on that same road. At this time, Henry Ford's cars had dispelled the horses. And in that picture, I could have sworn I saw about 2-3 horses against tens of fossil-driven and powered rather zero. If there was a possibility of that happening where they lose their jobs, they said no, that there has been for thousands of years a relationship between human and horses. So it was practically impossible for man to do without them. All right? That is how the horses would have responded. 13 years, 13 years, that's the same generation. 13 years down the line, we had horses that had lost their jobs because in their journey, they were too comfortable and they were living in denial, not willing to position themselves strategically in a world that was already changing. That is where we are right now with AI, AGI. By AGI, I mean artificial general intelligence. There's also the ASI coming, which you call the artificial super intelligence. The discussions around this space are huge and sometimes very scary. However, all right, for those of us who can even just relate with the basic thing with ChatGPT, asking it to show you how you can position, all right, to be strategically in tune with an AI, AGI economy, you realize that you have very, very practical steps that you can take. Because what I have said now, I've actually done it with my ChatGPT. I went on DeepSeek, I went on cloud. I asked this very question. I asked it, I said, assume the role of a strategic leader, all right? And I told it to position itself and tell me what the HSC profession would be like in an AI, AGI dominated economy. And then I also asked it to please tell me strategically how I can be positioned for that career relevance at that time. And boy, I don't even want to waste your time trying to read it, because what I'm trying to say is that it's right in your hand. With that tool in your hand, you can literally do this. We don't have the time to live in denial. Transformational leaders don't do that. We anticipate what is come and we position. For everybody who is a football fan in here, whether you're Chelsea, Man U, I'm an Arsenal fan, all right? And one of the things we know, irrespective of the club, every great striker never goes to where the ball is, except he's defending a corner or defending a set piece that is very close to the box. That's when you find strikers in the box. However, every great striker knows that his assignment is to go where the ball is going and be positioned to a position where the ball is going. So great transformational leaders don't just they don't just rely on what they do professionally today, day in, day out, like we mentioned earlier, but we also anticipate what is coming and we position ourselves, all right, to be strategic and relevant players at that space. So I am grateful for the opportunity to share. I hope these thoughts have been engaging enough. It would be nice to have other inputs and any questions or contributions so that we can also learn together. So thank you for the opportunity, everybody. God bless you.
Wow. Thank you very much, Sir Wume Daniels, for that insightful presentation. We will now take a few questions from the audience. Please raise your hand and briefly state your name before your question.
There's a Wilson whose hand is raised. I think Wilson Will is ready.
All
Okay,
right.
please go on.
Okay. Good afternoon, everybody. Good afternoon, Mr. Rume. Thank you for this
Yes, sir.
wonderful presentation. It's actually timely because just recently I work in the maritime industry. So, and if you have been around Apapa, Tinkan Island, you know how very, very hazardous that environment is. So lately and just recently, even before the World Safety Day, this particular topic was just in my mind. So that is one of the reasons why I even joined the call. So, but then it all came, this thought came to mind. In Tinkan where I work, we have HSC committee for various companies represented by the HSC manager or thereabouts. And then one of the reasons why I was thinking of this was because just recently, again, I think 2 months ago, we lost somebody, not necessarily in my own facility, but within the Tinkan Island. Now, this person is a third party worker for a major, for a very big company who, does business with us. They run their conveyor because of how strategic we are and the proximity as well. So from their own plants to our own facility. So, he went, that very day, the vessel wasn't available. And then, normally when they don't have a vessel at berth, they usually do their maintenance, and he just left our own facility into their own facility. They are all linked together. So now, while he was trying to go and pick some things, he saw a truck coming with full speed, and then he thought it was that okay, there are also trucks that are parked side by side, and he said, okay, let me just stay in between these trucks that are parked, and then this particular truck just leave his own way. And then I think that truck lost balance and hit the one just close to, it was in between these two trucks now. I hit the one behind, and that just, there was collision with his head to the other one, and he died on the
Oh
spot.
my goodness.
Yeah. So it was really, really painful because he was a supervisor. And then I started wondering, because over time I've raised the issue. This is where I'm going. Over time, I've raised the issue in the joint committee meeting with Tinkan Island, headed by the MPA Safety Department. I've talked about them not enforcing some of these things. Beyond that, they are these are the things we live with. So I'm just saying now that this person is not even in their own facility, just within that industrial area. He had an accident, and it was about, I think, the previous week he was supposed to just take his retirement and all of that, and he died on the spot. Now he died just within his own facility, not even inside the facility. So, even when I was looking at this topic and speaking about leadership and all of that, dwelling more on leadership, yes, I came to really understand that leadership has a role to play beyond the fact that, okay, we might be in a position. Sorry, I'm taking too much time, but then I'm trying to wrap this up because it is really something that is touching. And I feel that, yes, we want to see how we can influence even when we still work in places. But I was going to ask you to just give us a particular situation you have been in, and then how you try to resolve issues like that. So many times we have issues, we have difficulties in getting results. So beyond that, what can we do? Because I feel that the regulatory bodies still have a role to play. because I feel that most of this company, this is where I'm going, most of this company knows that. And if we are going to be very fair as HSC professionals, we will see that so many companies get away with some of these things that happen simply because they have influence in the society, simply because the law doesn't even work. Because if we want to start talking about laws now, I've worked in the factory, I've worked in construction, so I know what I'm talking about. So they see these things happen and nothing is done. And then even when you try to build it, okay, I'm saying this can happen to even me, that I've tried to put a system in place in my own workplace, and then just getting access into my own place because we have people who are not directly under your control because they have to go through the MPA gate into your own terminal. Cause this, there was an even, it almost happened to me. There was a time, a truck was coming from Honeywell just like that. He didn't even check, and we inside the vehicle. So they have a role to play beyond even we are looking at, let's say, beyond compliance. How do we, because lots of Nigerians are dying in workplaces. December last year, one terminal, a crane fell on him and he just, died like that. December last year. So all of this is not just about, okay, yes, culture is good, but in an area where that you don't have anything, you work in an environment where you are so limited, you don't have, you cannot even influence that workspace. What do you do? That's why I'm citing I'm citing this example now because I think that for me personally, this labor inspectorate, regulatory body that was supposed to drive compliance, when they hear these things happen, they should be able to penalize these people. And I think that is what the Western world are enjoying. So please, this is my little submission, and I don't know if you can throw more light on that. And then,
Yeah,
also
thank
my
you, thank
last
you.
question could be, what have you done? Like, I know you've been in a situation where it was so challenging. What did you do differently that gave you the result? I know culture is a gradual thing, progress is a gradual thing. Maybe just share more light on stuff like that. Thank you very much, sir.
Thank you very much. And it seems you have answered the question because the last thing you just said is that and honestly, it's not far from the truth. It's a gradual thing. All right. So I tell you what, none of us on this call want to talk about the challenges of this country. It's disheartening. So when you say culture is important, I'm telling you, it's a terrible culture that is destroying all that we know. Do we have rules in this country? Yes. Are we implementing them? No. What is the problem? Nigeria way. And it's even worse because tonight, this evening now, I'm actually in Warri as I speak. I had a training for an oil servicing company during the week. A number of us might know them, the former Hercules, all right, in the marine yard here in Warri. So I was on their badges to just look. And then, of course, finishing that, and I just finished a training this evening with Amju Microfinance Bank. So I'm in Warri today. And I can tell you the culture around here, all right, is even worse than in Lagos. I grew up in Ibadan. I was born in Ibadan. I work in Lagos, all right? My office is in Lagos. I am a Deltan. I can tell you that the culture in Warri is slightly different. Anybody who understands Warri, if you've lived in both parts of the country, you will know that the culture around here is even worse than what you are describing there, all right? And when this man said culture will eat up and strategy for breakfast, another one said it will eat up vision for lunch, they know what they're saying. And that's the truth, all right? That's the truth. For me, if you ask me what I've done, my journey has brought me before a lot of people. One of the things I've realized is that you have to be alive first to even, because some people in their passion, and I hear so much passion in your voice, Mr. Wilson, so much passion, all right? So much passion. That passion is reflected in my own house in two ways. Number one, when it comes to my wife, it is tears. It is literal breakdown. For me, it is anger. I begin to hit the tables when we talk about Nigeria. However, all right, we found out that we have to be alive first. So we can't out of anger resign. Just like I told you, I tell people not to resign because they're angry. Don't resign. You can't out of anger resign. You have to be alive. You have to be able to earn an income to even be there. You have to be in there to even change things. All right, it's the same thing. It has nothing to do with just the HSC space. The decay, the moral decadence, the entire thing we see in the society is actually a breakdown of entire values and morals. So it is shaping the way we now bring, because all of us are extensions of our various communities we bring into the workplace. All right. So despite the standards that have been laid down, the rules and regulations that have been laid down. We bring our bad behavior from the community into the workplace, all right? And painfully, a lot of leaders who don't understand how it is to grow organizations are there. And like we already have alluded to the fact that there are people who want to add value, make a difference, do things right by the books, but there are just some leaders who want to cut corners. And when you have that, you just, like I said, you have to be alive first. All right, you have to be alive first. I remember that at some point I had to stop talking, even for my own physical safety of my life. I had to stop speaking. I just kept quiet. And then I moved out of that mode of trying to, talk, and I kept quiet for a season. I discussed with my wife, discussed with my mom, with a mentor, and the advice I got with, be careful. And that be careful was much more than anything else. You needed to be alive first, all right? And that's how serious it is. In certain instances, you need to even, understand that your life. I was telling you somebody who was saying in 18 years of her job, she had never had BP. And all of a sudden, under this guy in 2 years, she had been hospitalized 3 times with high blood pressure issues, all right? All right. And then some will talk about their mental health and all of that. So in trying to implement, or rather shape the values of your organization, if you're an upright person, just know that you are up against, institutional, I'll put it this way, institutional principalities and powers. And they are very systemic. Some of them are deliberately very wicked, to the end where they want to push out anybody who doesn't stand at them. So it takes wisdom to trade. Passion is not enough. It takes wisdom to trade in that space. And wisdom for me at that time was to be safe first, and then I continue later. All right. And I continue later. In some instances, all right, where the organization has given permission to scale up things when your immediate superior in your neighborhood is not, then I wrote mails, anonymous mails, all right? And I scale up with noise. Now, whether the people inside will suspect me for writing it or not is not the issue, but I let it be clear to the superiors I was writing to that I don't want to be quoted, and I give facts behind what was happening. So I wrote to superiors, all right? Because we've seen situations where, and this is real, whistleblowers come up, speak of incidences that were happening, and the next thing is that they are ganging against the whistleblower. Painfully, the system did not protect the whistleblower. I know some of us understand what I'm talking about. So please, first of all, you need to apply wisdom, all right? Wisdom is very, very crucial. Passion is good, but the wisdom has to override that passion many times. Many times. Second thing you need to do is to lead by example and drown out the noise, because there are a lot of people who will keep telling you, is it your father's business? You have to lead by example. And they say if you can't beat them, you join them. When they see that you're not joining them, they want to drag you to their own level of immaturity. That will also require some grit and some tenacity as well. Finally, and this is true, sometimes you must be willing and ready to accept persecution. And I'm saying this on this call, not trying to boast. I've been in a situation where persecutions, I don't want to go into all of the details because I've served in the oil and gas, and I can tell you I have faced certain persecutions in my career and that journey that honestly, I sometimes you wonder if it even pays to be good, because all of a sudden you are trying to do the right thing and everybody is fighting you for it, and the system now begins to harass you. I've been there before. So I understand that. I'm going to leave this here so that I can have at least 1 or 2 people who have raised their hands to talk. Mr. Wilson, thank you again for your thoughts.
Thank you, sir, for that. So we have Mr. Bukola. Please unmute your mic and ask your question, sir.
Bukola Ayo.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
I'm not a mister.
Yes, are
Sorry
you
about
from Port Harcourt?
Yes, Buki from Port Harcourt.
Buki, I know you very well. How are you doing?
I'm alright.
Good.
Okay, I love this topic so much because it just took me down memory lane on my career. So
Okay.
mine is not really a question, but it's actually a contribution
Beautiful, thank you.
to the subject matter. Because most of the time when we look at it dealing with leaders, let's look at it from the popular saying that if safety is expensive, why don't you try an accident? We always say that. if safety is expensive, then try an accident. So my own suggestion is that when you are bringing safety issues to the table, then think about the return on investment, especially when you're opportune to be in the managerial position. Then try to approach management from this point of view that, okay, now let us look at our return on investment. What happens if someone loses his life or someone loses her life? Then we now start talking about payment of compensation liabilities and a whole lot of things. So let's come from the angle of bringing the financial aspect into the matter with management, because at the end of the day, money is very important. And like the Yoruba people will say, Owo ni koko, money is the main thing. So let's now take safety from that point of we need to keep people safe, we need to keep people safe, and now bring the financial aspect while
The
approaching
benefits.
management. So if we do that, it would really, really help us. And you talked about tenacity, and it just reminded me of when I used to work with an environmental company that there was a result. I used to head the microbiology unit then. And there was an analysis that was done, and somehow there wasn't a correlation with the physical chemistry for heaven knows what they did, maybe cutting corners or whatever, I don't know. But it now got to the point of submission of the results, and they were like, are you sure of this result? Should we send it to the client? I said, yes, go ahead. They said, are you double sure of this result? I said, send it to the client. If you like, wake me up from sleep tomorrow morning. I will tell you I did everything. And this is samples that we're talking of water and sediment samples of over 1,000. And we ran everything in the microbiology lab. So the result was sent that even the person I worked in the other organization saw it and was like, I'm also a microbiologist. I understand this result. And he put his job on the line that if this result does not correlate, you guys should fire me. And guess what? That result now revealed something that was going on that the organization did not know. So when you talk about tenacity, at a point when it happened and we went for the meeting and all that, he explained everything to me during the closeout meeting that, Buki, you don't know how your results saved me. That do you know that because the company was actually an IOC. And do you know that the result of that your analysis revealed that underwater storage of crude was actually leaking. As at the time that we discovered, about 8,000, over 8,000 barrels was already out. So the lesson from it is, if I did not insist on my own aspect of being sure of the result, then I don't think the organization would have made such a discovery. So let me just wrap it up. Just as you are being tenacious in what you do, always remember the financial part, because no organization wants to record losses. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for sharing.
Thank you very
much.
much.
Yeah.
So, Mr. Emmanuel, please, you have 1 minute. Please, your hands is up.
Okay, good evening. Thank you for the opportunity. And it was a very impactful and inspiring one. So straight up, without wasting much of time, I have I am the HSC site lead in a manufacturing company here in the West. So during the course of the presentation, I just reminisced and I saw all what the speaker has been saying, as if he was even speaking my own experience. Now, I worked in a company, or I am presently working in a company. Before I was employed, I was interviewed by the human resource, and she's rightly spoke that they needed a professional to fix, the lapses. Then I said, okay. Then I came in board. I was able to address some issue. Then after I started experiencing some hiccups here and there. And majority of the issues I was experiencing was from the management. In fact, it even got to a point in time whereby I got a whole lot of complaining and here and there and all of that. So the main reason, the main point I'm trying to drive at is that first I was I displayed an art of tenaciousness, and I was being diplomatic. Now, this safety of a team, people see it as being irrelevant to start with. Now, an organization and the management sees it as they are actually doing you a favor by employing you as a safety personnel. And like what the this person just spoke about, the former lady that just spoke about, she said you have to tie some of these things to the work itself, because now when you are bringing out proposal project and you are saying you want to implement that one, you want to, now the company will actually scale this. Now is it profitable to the company? Now, okay, let's make example of a safety footwear. Imagine you are telling a company the benefit of a footwear. Okay, once you wear footwear, you prevent slip and trip hazard and all of that. Now the company will now have to weigh this. Okay, if we procure this footwear, let's say 50 million, now what is the benefit to the organization? So we need to be diplomatic. We need to tie some of these things, like she has rightly spoken, to the production and to the top management, that if these things is not being implemented, there are things like a workers' compensation claim. I know some of these compensation claim, they are amounting in millions. So if we could actually express ourselves openly and we go in depthly, I'm telling you, HSC department and HSC as a whole career will go a long way. And diplomacy is also a key in safety. Now, let me dive very quickly into the other parts of it. Digitalization. We know everything is transforming from analog to digital. In fact, even people in the ICT world, there's one thing about ICT, you have to be updated. Now, and safety is aligning with ICT. So you cannot continue the old way. Now, I want to ask a question briefly. I want to ask a question, Mr. Daniel. Now, for we to, to move at the pace in which digitalization is going, are you actually suggesting that we actually go for courses that are relating to IT so that at least we keep up to date? Because if we are on the analog way, truly, as we've all know and you've spoken, then HSC will be totally eradicated from the workplace. So that's my own contribution and question. Thank you.
Thank you very much. The input is very well noted. So just like yourself and Buki have mentioned, it's so important to ensure that every single suggestion we're bringing, every strategy we're trying to implement, every single innovation we're trying to implement is tied to the benefits the organization can see. Yes, so that's something that must continue to be practiced. It's something that I've lived by. With regards to this final question of IT, I believe very strongly in the fact that that complete eradication is not something that will happen immediately. It is just that the way it is, all right, AI or humanoid, excuse me, or humanoids will do any routine job that any human being can do, including, documentation, for instance, including so anything we can basically do. These things will do them eventually. So the answer to that question about should we go and develop competence? Yes, please. This is point and kill season now. And what I mean by that is choose any, career related, IT related field that you feel you have some interest in, at least at this time, and start from there. So if it's data analysis, data processing, start from there. If you, sorry, pardon me. So I just within this week, two of my prodigies and friends who are professionals in different industries just signed up for cyber security courses. And this is not a time to hold back. All right. Last week, Saturday, I was speaking for the second time in a row to the Chevron medical team at Escravos. And as some of us who probably know the medical team, the doctors and nurses there, might have heard of a certain Mr. Eugene. Mr. Eugene is retiring at the end of the month as a seasoned matron who has given over 13 years in the field. However, some 15 years ago, Mr. Eugene made a transition in his career. He traveled to the US and signed up for a course, a tech-related course. He developed proficiency in Java script, learned Python, C++, built all of that. He's a seasoned programmer who is a nurse by day and a programmer by night. And interestingly, also contributes some of his programming skills to his current employers. All right. I'm talking about a nurse who is a seasoned programmer. In fact, his story right now, Mr. Eugene's story, because is a senior, very well in terms of age, is senior to me. I have embraced his story as a very serious story to share in every fora I can right now. So what that tells you is that this is not a generation to start saying all I know to do is HSC. All right. This is the generation that has to be tech-oriented plus HSC. The HSC will not be the basis. It will be tech plus HSC, not HSC plus tech. If you see it from there, you realize that this is the way and the reality of life currently for every profession. It is not tech plus accounting. It's tech plus medicine. It's tech plus. It is not medicine and then tech. No. Because interestingly, if you go check, the top 10 courses in the world that we always do when we're much younger is medicine, is law. Interestingly, in the current dispensation, the top 20 jobs of the future released by the Global World Economic Summit Group from Davos, all right, for 2030, all right, there's no medicine in the top 20, there's no law in it, there's no engineering in it. In fact, some of the professions that are listed there are not even in existence at the moment, and that's the truth. All right, with that being said, like I said, this is just the time to make that reinvention and to be humble enough to accept the fact that change is here and is upon us. All right?
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you.
We have Mrs. Elizabeth. Please go ahead. You have 30 seconds with your questions.
All right. Thank you. Good evening, all. I want to appreciate the presenter, and I personally love this topic, beyond compliance. Yes, what are we doing as individual, not just the HSC personnel who are professionals at the field? What of the worker? What of that person that cannot even read simple signage? What are we actually doing? So there was this incident that happened at my site. So the guy was given, he was issued the appropriate PPE, especially the hand PPE. He's a mechanic. Unfortunately for him, he said he forgot his PPE and went to do work in a DJ generator. So what happened was that the fan belt now caught, and then as a result, it caught the guy's hand. He was rushed to the hospital. So what saved us was the record we kept. Was during investigation, was PPE issued to this guy? Was he inducted? Does he know the use of this PPE? Yes, all of that were yes. And evidence were there presented to the investigators. So I want to encourage us here that while we are here learned and know the meaning of compliance and how it improves our HSC culture in our individual organization, let us also drill it down to that layman that does not really understand it. When I'm teaching them, maybe during TBT, I will tell them, safety is you, YOU. If anything should happen to you, you are the head. All those branches, they are going to suffer for it. But before anybody suffers it, you will suffer it first. So these are my encouragement to them, and with that, I'm seeing improvement greatly in our activity. Thank you. That's my little contribution. I appreciate this time. Thanks.
Thank you very much, ma.
Thank you very much, ma, for that wonderful contribution. So, and lastly, we have Erasmus Tamun. Please, you have 30 seconds to ask your question.
Yeah, good evening, everyone. I'm grateful and happy, and also appreciate the presenter beyond compliance. I'm actually happy for this presentation. I just have a contribution. I think leadership by example is not just something that we need to actually say from our lips, but it's beyond what we are leading, what we think the people we are leading or what we are leading. Now, if leadership has conflicts, there's going to be an accident or incident on the run. Now, something happens in my organization. I think during I'm in a construction firm actually. When we were about to demob, something actually happened. There was a crack between the leadership area. So the HSC department, the HSC manager, and the construction team, logistics, and the HRO department, we are not actually in a good terms. I know that period to this time, the HSC is actually not in a good terms with construction team, because they actually wants to cut corners, but the HSC team will not allow them to do so. What are we trying to prevent? We are trying to prevent accident. We are trying to prevent resources of the company for the company not to spend resources by paying damages. Now, before we actually demob, a mail was not sent for demobilization. There was no permit to work for that. The logistics officer sent his own boy, who was not a driver, just a mechanic, asked him to drove the concrete mixer out of the premises. Now, these premises is an LNG premises, which everything is being tied to safety. No matter what we want to do, is safety first, because what we are driven to achieve is goal zero. Now, on Saturday, we've closed. So this guy, they came back and drove this concrete mixer out. Unknowingly, he knocked the gate, then hit the electric pole. Then it fell down and damaged. Immediately, they took him to run drug and alcohol test. Investigation began. Now, what am I trying to say? When all these things happens, everybody just because probably it is their team, it is their own department, they remove their head that this is HSC. But when we were saying that we need go zero, so things must be done appropriately, procedure must be followed, they refuse it. It's as if we are currently, we don't want productivity, we don't want this, we don't want that. But when it happens, everybody remove their head, including the boss that sent the young man, denied him during the investigation process, because he was called upon and it was put on speaker. The client calls him. We stood for over.
Right. So sorry, Mr.
2 hours.
Erasmus, I'm going to interrupt you, Mr. Erasmus. Are you asking a question?
No, I'm not a question. I'm contributing. That I just want.
Okay. Because your 30 seconds has been up, and we need to move very quickly, sir. So please make the points quickly. Yeah.
Okay, I'm sorry, sir. Okay, well, what I'm trying to say is that all leaders, all departments need to work as a team by driving to achieve the goal zero without them having any HSC concern, to ensure goal zero must be zero. Everybody all hands must be on deck to follow the procedure, to do the right things, to comply, to ensure that productivity is being achieved, safety is being achieved, and nobody gets hurt. But when there is a conflict in the midst of the management team, there's going to be accident or incident that will tarnish the image of the organization. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you very much, everyone, for that wonderful contribution. Thank you very much, sir. So we'll call on the ASSP president to please join us, and everyone presently on the meeting to please let's join together and present the certificate to our speaker for this wonderful session, for his valuable contribution to SSP.
Okay, good evening.
Good evening, sir.
We can hear you, sir.
Okay, my name is Engineer Charles, SSP PE. I don't know if Mr. Tolu is there. Mr. Tolu?
Engineer Charles, I greet you, sir.
Okay, yeah. Daniel, how are you?
Awesome, sir. Thank you. It's nice to talk to you, sir.
Okay, yeah. Thank you very much for this wonderful presentation. It is a topic that is right on time. Okay, basically looking at what we have presented, it is high time safety, advocacy, and practice in the industry shift from just ordinary compliance. Okay, compliance means you just want to do what the law has said you are going to do. But moving beyond that to develop it as a culture, okay, will help to show a lot of commitment from everyone in the organization. And also looking at it from the context of what we have in ISO 5001 and ISO 14001, environmental management system and the operational health and safety management system, you will see that leadership is central to the management system, which means a lot of responsibility, okay, is on top management. But like from what has been narrated around, you will see that most organizations are more interested in profit instead of, you know, the safety requirements in an organization. So it behoves on the safety professionals within the organization to ensure that you do a data-driven safety management in the organization. Data in the sense that you need to bring up data that you are going to use to present to top management for them to see the difference between having a safe operation and having an accident, you know, reading operation in an organization, because it is more expensive actually to have that coupled with reputational damage. So that being said, in order to not to waste our time, I want to thank everybody for attending this class. And Mr. Daniel, I want to thank you also for this wonderful presentation. You are actually contributing immensely to the growth of safety through ASSP platform. And that's exactly what we stand for. Okay, so on behalf of ASSP, I want to present this certificate to Mr. Daniel, okay, for this wonderful presentation on going beyond compliance and cultivating a safety-driven culture through transformational leadership. Mr. Daniel, thank you very much. And I thank you very much from us and from all the team members that attended. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, sir. Please let us unmute our mic. Let's say thank you to our presenter for this wonderful knowledge shared.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Daniel. We appreciate.
Thank you, Mr. Daniel. We really do appreciate you. Much grace.
Thank you very much, sir. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Daniel. It was a great
Thank you, sir.
job having you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, next on our agenda, to keep us informed about development from the ASSP Nigerian chapter and our global body, I would like to invite the ASSP Nigerian chapter secretary to give us any important updates, if there's any at the moment.
I don't think Mr. Bumi is here, but for now, I don't think there is any update if there is, we will share it on our platform in the coming week.
Oh, okay, sir. Thank you very much, sir. So, for our closing remark, we would like to formally close today's impactful session, and I invite the chairman of the ASSP Nigerian chapter to please give us the closing remark for today. Then we'll proceed to our group photograph, where we unmute our mic and also turn on our video so that we can all take a good photograph.
Okay, thank you, everybody. I want to use this opportunity to thank everyone that has attended this knowledge sharing session, and also to Mr. Daniel for the wonderful presentation. I also want to encourage everyone to keep participating in a knowledge sharing exercise like this. You can see how rich what we have discussed today is in building your career. So it's an exercise that you have to keep making our time to make sure that we develop ourselves through this platform. So thank you, everybody, for attending. And good evening.
Thank you, everybody. Please, let's check our environment if we're in a very safe space. So let us turn on our video. Let us take a group photograph so that we can just smile to camera. So we can say cheese. We have come to the end of our program. So kindly exit the platform until we meet next time on our knowledge sharing. Don't forget, we need to always look beyond compliance. We need to encourage, we need to make sure our safety culture is being improved. After attending this session, I'm sure we are all transformational leaders now. Thank you very much, everyone. See you next time, and God bless. And thanks again to our wonderful speaker, Mr. Ahmed Daniels. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Mr. Roaming.
Thank you.
Well done.
Thank you.
Yeah, Mr. Daniel, at your time, just try and contact me.
Thank you, Mr. Romy Daniel. Thank you, everyone, for this great lesson.